Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and I wanted to offer my thoughts on the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny trailer. So we finally have a title for this film. I think some people thought that this is just going to be called Indiana Jones and just sort of leave it kind of vague and generic like that, and I'm glad they actually gave it a title. I'm totally fine with this title. I like the alliteration. I like that it's kind of short and sweet. I think there's a little bit of mystery involved with it, but that's really what I wanted to talk about. I mean, there have been a ton of trailer breakdowns, trailer reactions, that sort of thing. I don't typically do a lot of that on my channel, but I try to do a little bit of digging where I can, and so I started asking the question, what would a Dial of Destiny be exactly? So I've got my coffee this morning. This is December 2nd. The trailer came out kind of later in the day yesterday, and I did watch it a couple of different times. And there are a few thoughts I have just generally about the trailer, and I want to sort of dig into that. Thus, the coffee, kind of thinking about it, getting the conversation going this morning. I think the trailer itself is great. It doesn't give away too much of the plot, which I think is a big issue with a lot of modern day movie trailers, where they just kind of go through the entire movie and summarize it for you. I'm sure as we get closer to the release date, we'll get a much more in-depth plot type of trailer at that point, which kind of makes sense then. But I like what they've included here. I think it works really well. I think the de-aging sequences that we see and are kind of glimpsed in this trailer are just awesome. I mean, I think, when you think back to things like Rogue One and some other movies and things that we've had down the line where they've tried to digitally make people younger, it sometimes doesn't quite jump that uncanny valley, doesn't quite make it past the whole jump the shark effect. I don't see that here. I think that this looks really good, at least in the things we've glimpsed. Now, I will say there are a couple of shots in the trailer that you can tell are completely unfinished, I would think. So there's a scene where Indy is on a horse and it kind of bucks back and you can see his face, and it doesn't look very good. If you pause it and look at it, it's not the best CG, but I have a feeling, given that we're, 6 or 7 months out from the release date, they'll probably iron all of that out before it actually gets here. But all that to say, I'm excited about this movie. I'm kind of the eternal optimist. I just think that, people oftentimes don't go into this unless they've got a love for the material, right? Obviously, it's going to make money. That's the main reason we're doing this to begin with. If the original movies didn't make any money, then Indiana Jones would have been ancient history. But I think James Mangold, wants to treat this lovingly. It looks like he's done that. I think that Harrison Ford probably would not have come back if the script was something he didn't like. So I think we're in a good place with this, and I am legitimately excited about it. But let's go ahead and talk about the Dial of Destiny. So I did a little bit of research, a little bit of digging, just to see what I could find out about this, and my research brought me to the ever-trusty Wikipedia. And so again, I'm a teacher, and I tell my students all the time, don't trust Wikipedia, don't cite that as a source. And so here I am, the pot calling the kettle black. Anyway, there is a device here that sort of stands out to me as being potentially what this could be all about, right? So I'm not really sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's the Antikythera mechanism. I think I pronounced that correctly. Antikythera mechanism. So you can see what Wikipedia says about this. And again, in this case, Wikipedia is drawing hopefully from reputable sources, but here's what we've got. The Antikythera mechanism is an ancient Greek hand-powered orrery described as the oldest example of an analog computer used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. It could also be used to track the 4-year cycle of athletic games, which was similar to an Olympiad, the cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. And when you start digging into some information about this a little bit more, what you start to see is that it was a device that had a lot of interlocking gears. It was, way ahead of its time in terms of the design. And when you get into the history of it, you can see some information about that here as well, right? The artifact was among wreckage retrieved from a shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island Antikythera in 1901. On May 17, 1902, it was identified as containing a gear by archaeologist Valeros Stais, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The device, housed in the remains of a wooden framed case of uncertain overall size, etc., was found as one lump, later separated into 3 main fragments, which are now divided into 82 separate fragments after conservation efforts. So again, this was found in a shipwreck. And what do we see in the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny trailer? We get some sequences that are set underwater, where you see some eels coming out of a skeleton, which is really cool looking. It's a cool effect. But also you see a character who, I'm not sure who it is quite yet, sort of, underwater and sort of moving toward the surface. So I don't know, to me, there are some clues here suggesting that this could be the MacGuffin. This could be the artifact in the movie. And of course, in true Indiana Jones fashion, they're going to take a lot of artistic license with that and make it more interesting than maybe it might initially seem. Maybe it's got some power to dial back time. Maybe it's got some time travel effect. Maybe there's something even more powerful associated with it. But to me, this seems to be one of the best candidates that I've come across for what the artifact, the MacGuffin in this new film could be. But if you've come across something that stands out for you as being even more likely, that maybe I haven't seen yet or heard about yet, which is entirely possible given that I'm sure a ton of people have dissected this and offered their thoughts on it at this point, let me know that down in the comments below. I hope everybody's having a great week, and we will chat again soon.